Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Blood Red Morning Bulletin. My name is Emma Keats, and today I'm joined by my fellow Liverpool.com colleague Ben Botchek. And Ben, obviously, international break, not really a whole lot to talk about, but there has been news that's kind of trickling out of Spain with the fact that a court in Spain has reversed Barcelona's decision to declare Gavi as a first team player, and they've reduced him now to a youth team player, which means that he could leave Spain or he could leave Barcelona, sorry, at the end of the season, and his release clause could be triggered. What do you think of this decision? And do you think Liverpool will be in for Gavi in the summer, or do you think anything changes at all? Or what's your take on the situation?
Well, it's not just the release clause. He can leave for free now because there's a clause in his youth contract that allows him to leave on a free transfer. So I think that changes the situation massively. If this isn't resolved until the summer, then Liverpool and potentially other clubs as well. I mean, we spoke about Manchester City before in another stream, could very well be making a move for Gavi because at this point, at this time, his situation, his future at Barcelona seems very uncertain, and he might be an academy product and a Barcelona player through and through, but at the end of the day, to an extent, he is going to be thinking about his future and given Barcelona's financial problems, I don't see him being registered unless the court has a major change of heart, which, I mean, this is the second time this has gone to court now, so I think that's unlikely. So I think in terms of that, in terms of Gavi's future, it changes a whole lot of things. And in terms of Liverpool, I mean, we talk about potentially making a move for Jude Bellingham, which is going to be costly. If there is a chance to sign someone of Gavi's talent on a free transfer, then I think you got to go for it, because if you are going to go for Bellingham as well, then you don't have a lot of money left to spend, but you probably do need two midfielders, and Gavi is the type of player who would suit Jurgen Klopp well. He's not necessarily the most defensive player, but he does make a lot of pressures and he closes down his opponents from the front, which is exactly what you're looking for in a gegenpressing system. And he's just technically really gifted, excellent in 1 versus 1 situations, really good at progressing the ball, and he's quite creative as well. So I think there's a lot going for him, and obviously the fact that he's extremely young as well, born in 2004. That's a big bonus as well, considering Liverpool are trying to build for the future.
Yeah, exactly. And as you said, obviously we all know Liverpool's kind of putting their eggs in the Jude Bellingham basket. But you think if the Bellingham deal doesn't go through, that Gavi kind of will be second or third on the ladder. Do you think, or is it more Jurgen Klopp has other options in mind, and that now the Gavi situation has changed, perhaps he might propel himself up that ladder, or where would you rank him in terms of targets for Liverpool potentially?
I think, considering the fact that he is one of the best up and coming midfielders, he's got to be up there in the top targets, especially now that he could be available in a free transfer. Um, if Liverpool don't succeed with the Bellingham transfer, I don't necessarily think Gavi is the replacement for him, because I think this summer Liverpool need two types of midfielders. They need a Gavi type, a creative, sort of offensive midfielder, and they also need more box to box, a bit someone who can also do the defending side of the game, a bit like Bellingham as well. I mean, ideally, maybe a backup for Fabinho as well. I wouldn't complain if that came to fruition. But, we know FSG's budget. We know that's going to be unlikely to bring three midfielders in. So hopefully two. And if that's the case, I still think if Liverpool do miss out on Bellingham, Gavi isn't the alternative. He's the alternative to maybe Mason Mount, for example. I mean, he's also been linked with a transfer to Liverpool, and I do think they're similar players. And I mean, Mount does have the homegrown status and probably a little bit more proven. His pedigree may be a little bit better, but Gavi obviously now has the factor that he's could be a free transfer, and the fact that he is a big talent and with lots of potential, probably a bigger potential than Mount.
Yeah, exactly. And you do make an interesting point there. As we're talking about, Barcelona's financial situation and that they might not even be able to register Gavi. But considering that he could leave for free, it's really not in Barcelona's interest to sell him. They can't really sell him because they can't make any money from him. They can't use the money from Gavi to register other players and I'm assuming, obviously don't know his wage salary, but I'm assuming he's not on massive amounts of money compared to other Barcelona players. So, yeah, Barcelona find themselves in a really difficult situation. They could lose, Gavi's valued by transfer market at 90 million euros, and they could lose him for nothing. That's not really going to help them at all. But it'd be interesting to see, as you said, how this ends up. Because you'd imagine if he is free, and it remains so that there's going to be a lot of teams fighting for signature, and you'd imagine Liverpool will be in there with or without Jude Bellingham. If Liverpool manage to get Bellingham and Gavi, I think that'd be pretty good in the summer. But I think we're getting ahead of ourselves here. But so we'll turn our attention now to a former Liverpool player, someone who did wear the red shirt, and he wore it really well, was Sadio Mane. And there's been reports coming out of Germany that Bayern, who he only joined, 7-8 months ago, aren't necessarily happy with his performances so far this season. There's a journalist making the claim that Bayern aren't really happy that essentially Mane's been put in a centre forward position, almost like a replacement, for Robert Lewandowski, and that he looks uncomfortable in the tactical system under Julian Nagelsmann. What's your take on the quotes? And do you think, I don't know how much of Mane you've seen at Bayern, but do you think it hasn't been a successful transfer so far, or what's your general view on it? And there has been reports that, or the journalist has said, that basically, he doesn't get to play in the old position that he played, at Liverpool, where Alphonso Davies kind of has the whole left flank to himself. And Mane's kind of been shoehorned into this position and he looks uncomfortable. So what's your take on it?
I think I disagree. Obviously, Mane, when he first arrived at Bayern, he had a really good start, very positive. And then he picked up that unfortunate injury, which then, of course, ruled him out of the World Cup. And he's only just recently come back after, having to undergo surgery as well. And, even at the start of his Bayern career, he was playing in that same position, in that same role, and doing really well. Now, I don't necessarily think he's uncomfortable because of the position. I think he's just still adjusting and sort of he needs a bit of time to get back to full fitness, to match sharpness. And I think that's what's really going on, not necessarily that he's not suited to that role, because towards the last 6 months of his Liverpool career, that's where we saw him play as well after Luis Diaz came in, and he did really well in the number 9 position. And I think considering the fact that he has lost a little bit of pace and probably has lost even more pace now that he had this injury, I think playing him in the middle is his best suited role. And, we saw it at Liverpool, he can be deadly in that position. And I think Bayern just needs a bit more patience. And I think in general, it's hard to come back from an injury when Bayern are already struggling a little bit in the Bundesliga. I mean, you expect them to dominate, and right now they're not even top of the Bundesliga table. Dortmund are ahead of them, and they've lost 3 games already this season, which is kind of unheard of at Bayern. So I think all of these factors make it a difficult environment for him to come back to from such a difficult injury as well to return from. So I think patience is needed, and clearly this journalist is just getting ahead of himself and maybe being a bit reactionary.
Yeah, I think, and you make a good point in the sense that he had the serious knee injury that ruled him out. Was it for 2 months? I think he was ruled out for. As you said, he definitely missed the World Cup. And when you spend so long in one tactical system, that Mane did, under Jurgen Klopp, pretty much playing the same 4-3-3 for years, season after season, you go into another team in another country in a different system, it is going to take time to adjust. And as you said, he's maybe lost some of that explosiveness, that kind of, that was his trademark in a way. But when he was repositioned as a centre forward last season for Liverpool, he was brilliant. He arguably joined the team probably in the second half of last season in terms of goals, because Mohamed Salah the goals kind of dried up for him in the second half of last season. So there is proof that Mane can play through the middle, but obviously it's just going to take time. As you said, Bayern's kind of not misfiring, but as you say, they lost 3 games, which you said, Bayern usually lose 1 or 0 in their current dominance of the Bundesliga. So yeah, I do think it is one of those where time is needed. But that'll do us for today. Thanks very much, Ben. And be sure to check out all the content at liverpool.com today, and we'll catch you all again tomorrow.